Good morning. This is something to talk about from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center, and I just want to let you know that this community center just loves that you're supporting us, and that remember, if you're not a member, it's only $20 a year, and you get more than enough for that 20 bucks. So think about it. Anyhow. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Bobbie Morgan, and she'll talk to us about the Citizens Climate Lobby and the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, a proposed fee on carbon at the point of extraction. Morgan says that it's a very effective way to reduce CO2 and provide economic fairness for most families. And we are so happy that you're here with us today, Bobbie.
Very click my present now. My story when it comes to climate work is that I'm a retired teacher. I've been a reading specialist, a second grade teacher, and a speech therapist. I've worked in special education for many years, but I've really been retired for many, many years working on the environment. Environmental protection just really called to me, and I've been active in a variety of ways for about 20 years. I'm a mom. I'm a grandmother of 3 with a 4th one coming this summer. And I love the natural world and treasure what we have right here in this beautiful part of the world. And I'm also a believer in the power of democracy. We have had to protect our democracy in the last few weeks. And we know that it is a treasure and it can help us solve critical issues. So let's learn about that. We're going to be really positive today and talk about climate change in terms of solutions. We know that the climate is a serious problem. We've experienced smoke from wildfires that have been exacerbated by climate change. We live on an island that's surrounded by the ocean, and the ocean is suffering from acidification. We know all these things, but today we're going to talk about solutions. So as we talk about solutions, I want everybody who's listening to think about solutions in terms of what do you think would make a good solution? What does a solution have to be like in order to be a good solution? Well, I think that has to mean that it's effective. It has to actually bring CO2 down to the safer levels, and it can't take forever to do that. So it has to be effective. It has to be fair. It can't hurt a certain group in our society more than another group, like the less well off. And it has to be durable. A solution that we talk about has to stay in place long enough and not just get flipped every 2 or 4 years when a different preponderance of one party gets into Congress. So effective, fair, and durable. Let's keep those in mind. So we're talking about a bill that was introduced in Congress about 2 years ago. It's called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. It will have to be reintroduced in our new Congress. So that's the plan. We don't know if it will have the same name. The name might change a little bit, but I sure hope it keeps the word innovation in there. I think that's a key for me, the power of this bill to generate innovation to help us solve the climate problem. So that bill will be effective and good for people and good for the economy. So how it works is it charges a fee. It puts a price on the bad, dirty fuels right at the source, which means the mine, you know, for coal, or the well for oil or natural gas, or the port. So there's another aspect to this bill that talks about how there's a fee put on imports coming from another country that doesn't have a price on carbon. So charging the fee on the dirty fuel is basically what we're talking about here. But then the other element that makes this bill so important and effective is that all of the revenue that is generated gets returned to households as a dividend. This is not a tax. It does not grow government. It just pushes the economy in the right direction, very forcefully and predictably. Because the way this is set up, it's a rising price on the dirty fuel. So it's just going to be more and more and more costly to use the dirty stuff, which means that within the next 12 years, we could have a 40% reduction in CO2 emissions and 90% reduction by 2050. That is effective. So it's good for people because of this household dividend. It's just kind of a genius concept, I think. And one of the other reasons that I like this bill is because it's fair. The economists that have done modeling on the impact of this bill have shown us that the average family of four does not suffer from the rising prices that the fee will generate, because the rebate that comes back automatically to the families balances that out. Genius. And of course, as we reduce CO2, we get a healthier environment. We have fewer lives lost to the dirty air. Air quality alone saves so many, the improvement in air quality saves so many lives. That in itself is enough of a benefit, I think. Plus, the stimulation to the economy will create jobs. That is another beautiful impact of this bill. The projection for a couple of million jobs to be created in local communities with a little more money in people's pockets, and the push towards the green energy economy. Excellent outcome. And for me personally, looking at the divisiveness sometimes that we have to struggle with when we want to get bills passed, this approach to the climate crisis has elements in it that appeal to both Democrats and Republicans, to both progressives and conservatives. And that is the way our government is supposed to work. We are supposed to work together to get bills passed. And so the best bills are the ones that have elements within them that appeal to both sides of the political spectrum. And I believe that the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, being carefully crafted the way it is, can accomplish that. We just have to be active as citizens to engage our members of Congress face to face and teach them about how we feel about this bill, and stay in close touch with them and advocate for a fair, durable, and effective bill. This can be bipartisan. So, you know, again, just to review, it's revenue neutral. The government does not keep the fees. So the funds are delivered back to families. it doesn't grow government, which is a real challenge for Republicans. You know, they just believe strongly that their job is to not grow the size of government. This bill, they can sign on to this bill because it is not a tax. It doesn't grow government. The monies are returned to families. And Derek Kilmer is a co-sponsor of this bill. We're very proud of our work on lobbying with Derek. I think we're also very fortunate to have Derek Kilmer representing us because he understands economics and he understands the power of this bill to accomplish the goal. And so he's an advocate for it. And I'm sure when the next version of this bill is introduced into the next Congress, whenever that is, I'm not sure when that's going to be. We have asked him if he will sign on again and be a co-sponsor of that bill, and he has assured us that he will. So thumbs up to Derek Kilmer. Thank you, Derek.
Mm-hmm.
There have been statements of support from all kinds of people. It's really been interesting to see that political spectrum. You've got Bradley Whitford on one side and George Shultz on the other. So I love that. You've got Catherine Hayhoe representing evangelical Christians. Jessie Diggins representing snow sports. She's an Olympic cross-country skier. And James Hansen is one of the climate scientists that's really been active in for probably 40 years and trying to find the best solution. And he's a supporter of this too. So bravo to all of them. The list is growing as we continue our work. Oh, I mentioned before, sometimes the question comes up, well, what about products that come from other countries? And so the Energy Innovation Act.
Uh-oh.
Okay now. There's something called the border tax adjustment. It means that highly carbon intensive products that are imported from a country that does not have a carbon fee, they get a fee charged at the border. So that's a way of keeping things a little more fair as we move forward and not have countries here move offshore to try to slip in through the back door. We want to prevent that. So we tax it at the border. Yeah. And just a quick mention, sometimes we question, well, what's it been like in Canada? Canada installed a carbon fee and dividend bill. This slide really shows what happened in British Columbia. But Canada has now instigated a nationwide system where the provinces that didn't have a carbon fee, now they've worked it out that those provinces have to come up with a plan too. And their plan is going to be, it's more complex because they've had this carbon fee and dividend plan in British Columbia, and now they have a national plan. So they're figuring out ways how to integrate that and make it some version of it nationwide. But they know it's effective. Its jobs are up and dirty fuel use is down, and it's a rising price, just like what we're talking about. And it's okay with people. It's popular. Some of the pushback that sometimes people worry about might happen. You know, we saw pictures of the Yellow Jacket movement in France. I forget when that was, the summer before last, where that country tried to put a price on carbon, but they did not return the funds to families. And so people were going to be hit financially, and there was a giant revolt against that. So this bill avoids that problem, and I'm really grateful that so much thought has gone into it that we won't have a yellow jacket revolution here when we get further along with this climate bill. I just love to think about what it is that we all value and why this work is so important. We do value climate justice. In other words, we don't want any kind of a bill to unevenly hurt a certain sector of our communities. And we know that communities of color are hurting more with climate injustice right now. We want clean air and water. We want to preserve all the ecosystems of the earth, and we want a safe environment for our children. I think for me, and maybe for many of you listening to this call, when I think about why I do the work I do, what gives me motivation and joy and meaning and purpose with this work, is that I believe that at my age and at my point, I'm an elder, I'm an elder. Sometimes we say, we're geezers, but I do. And I want legacy, leave a legacy for my children and my grandchildren. And that's one of the values that I have, as to be a good mom and a good grandmother. I want to leave a legacy, and I can't think of a better legacy to leave than to say how hard I worked and how much joy I got from working on finding a effective, fair, and durable solution to the climate problem. Although, my family might say that my legacy would really be my Aunt Gertrude's brownie cake, but the climate work that I do is my true legacy.
You could do both.
Maybe we'll do both, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Citizens Climate Lobby loves to work in what they call the levers of action. And so they want to build political will. We get endorsements from community leaders, elected officials, municipalities. This next picture shows lobbying, and I want to just say that while we're talking about that word lobbying, sometimes that word is used with contempt and with discouragement. But lobbying, when you've really done it, which I've done it, I've been to Washington, D.C. 3 times with this group. I've sat down in an office with members of Congress in a small group of people with good training, good preparation, respect, listening back and forth, and then we make a request. It is one of the most exciting things I've done, and we do it in the Capitol, and we will do it again next November. We will take back that Capitol and make it again a sacred space, just like it is meant to be.
You're here.
We work in print and social media. We've met with editorial teams. We do outreach like I'm doing right now. And there is a way for anybody who is interested in doing this work to get involved, whether it's just a little bit or a whole lot. I really am grateful for this opportunity to talk about Citizens Climate Lobby and the Energy Innovation Act. And I'm happy to take some questions. Just let me know what you think, what you'd like to talk about some more. And I'd like you to also feel free to take down my contact information. Either take your own screenshot there and remember my phone number or my email. And I'd also love to just invite you to take a look at the Citizens Climate Lobby website. It's easy to learn more about what's going on there. And if you're interested, you just click join. There's no cost or anything. They don't swamp you with a bazillion emails. It's easy to join. And we meet every month on Bainbridge. And there's just lots to know about how we do things, but I'm happy to talk some more about that with you, and we can take some questions.
Now, Bobbie, I have a question. When was the initial bill written? Was it recently, or was it several years ago?
Well, the bill that is called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act was introduced at the beginning of the last session of Congress. So that would have been 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
At the time it was introduced, it was actually bipartisan. There was a Republican co-sponsor.
Wow.
You know,
yeah.
And then many, many more Democrats signed on. I think the number of sponsors got up to close to 100. But the clock ticked, and it will have to be reintroduced in the next Congress. But I've been reassured that it's going to be very similar to the original bill. I don't think there's any plans to do grave changes to it.
Right.
It's up to, everybody who cares about this. There are chapters of Citizens Climate Lobby in almost every single legislative district in the country.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I mean, we have over 400 chapters throughout the country to get almost all 435 members of Congress. And now Citizens Climate Lobby is even grown to 610 chapters, I think, because it's spreading throughout the world. It's not just being in the United States. It's growing more broadly.
Yeah, well, it is a global issue, that's for sure.
Global issue, right, which is part of why I like working at the national level to have a little more impact. I mean, I love all the things that are happening at the city level, at the state level. I mean, those are all important too. But for me personally, I just get pumped up and jazzed about thinking that we could actually do this.
Right.
At the national level.
Yeah.
Citizens Climate Lobby was started, the first chapter was started in 2007. Actually, Bainbridge Island was one of the very first chapters.
It isn't a question, but it's a comment that I was just so happy about the part that the money goes back to the people who have to pay more. And it affects so many really poor people that have use this kind of energy. And it makes so much sense. And it seems like, well, that makes sense. That, why wasn't that just part of it from the beginning? But that, and especially, and then also the taxing the things that come in, because then it's not just our country. It's a wonderful piece of legislation from what we're hearing, and I'm really impressed with your work. And it's exciting because it seems like this could really happen, and this is something, it's such a huge problem that it's so overwhelming, but you never think, okay, this is actually something that could happen and have such a positive effect.
Exactly.
And that reminds me of one of my favorite phrases that your words are reminding me. It's a phrase called active hope.
Yeah.
I love that phrase because I can't say whether or not I'm actually optimistic or pessimistic. I'm not going to put myself on that spectrum of optimism or not. I just know what we need to do. So I have hope that the momentum will happen, and I will be active to do my part. So activity and hope together. I like that better than optimism or pessimism, which can be just imaginary.
That's very good. Yes, very good.
Exactly.
Hey, Eleanor.
I just wanted to reinforce the notion of the laser focus with respect to this is a lobbying group. And you mentioned earlier, lobbying gets a bad name. Lobbying gets a bad name when it's only the corporations and the people with a vested financial interest who are doing the lobbying, and then they control the government. If we as citizens individually or effectively collectively become the lobbyists, then, you know, we're participating in the government in the way that we're meant to. So
Perfect.
more power to us.
Perfect. Absolutely. Perfect way to wrap it up. Empowerment. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent point, Eleanor. We are a lobby. We can be lobbies. We the people. Absolutely. So, well, thank you so much for being with us today, Bobbie, and your efforts. And like I said, many of us have joined this organization, and we will continue to work.